Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Today I'm sharing how to make these beautiful, delicious Eid special candy centered cookies. They're also known as stained glass cookies. The cookie base itself is a no spread sugar cookie dough, so you can easily make it with or without candy and in any shape and size. You may keep them plain or turn them into beautiful pieces of art using royal icing or fondant decorations. Moreover, this cutout sugar cookie recipe is super easy, making them a great Ramadan or Eid activity to do with the kids. I baked them with mine and it was a huge hit. They helped me decorate, package, and distribute them amongst friends, and I really think it got them into the festive spirit. So let's get started with the recipe, but before that, please do consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a big thumbs up. Coming towards the dough, the first thing you'll need is 170 grams of butter at room temperature and 150 grams of granulated sugar. Don't use icing sugar, and if your sugar is too chunky, grind it a little bit. You will also need 280 grams of all-purpose flour and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Whenever you're measuring dry ingredients, especially with spoons and cups, make sure to give it a few stirs so you can aerate it. You don't want jam-packed full spoons or cups of dry ingredients. It can alter the result, and make sure to level it always. Then I'm adding quarter teaspoon of salt. If you're using salted butter, you can skip it. Next is one large egg at room temperature and vanilla and almond extract. Almond extract is optional, but it really gives a beautiful fragrance, so I would highly recommend it. So for making the dough, I'm going to be using my stand mixer with a dough hook, which looks like this. If you're using a handheld mixer or a beater, it sometimes comes with spiral shaped hooks. You can use those to make the dough as well. And I'm going to put my mixer at about medium to medium low speed. All I want is my butter to be smooth and spreadable without any lumps, and a little bit fluffy, just like you see it here. Once that is done, you are going to add all of the sugar into the butter, and then again whip it on medium speed till both of them are fluffy and well incorporated and you don't see sugar granules anymore. You might have to stop your blender or beater, whatever you're using, sometimes in the middle to scrape the sides so that no chunks of butter are left without being fluffed up with the sugar. I hope it makes sense. This is how it's going to look at this point. Next, you want to add in the egg and the flavoring. And if you want, you can actually flavor it with any other essence too. But generally, for making sugar cookies, it's always vanilla and almond. This recipe is actually from Sally's Cookie Addiction, and I think it's one of the best recipes that I've ever used. And I think now it's the only recipe that I use. They make the most delicious and easiest cookies, and they never spread on me, especially if you follow all the steps. So once the egg and the essence is incorporated, this is how the mixture is going to look. At that point, start adding in the flour. I like to add it a couple of spoons at a time, and my mixer is at about medium low speed. I don't put it on medium or medium high at the point. Once I've added all the flour and I can see that the dough is starting to incorporate just like you see here, then I put it on medium speed until the dough is nicely kneaded. It's going to start leaving the sides just like you can see here. I'm going to show you the texture of it. So if you pull out a piece, you should be able to mold it. It's like a pliable edible dough. It doesn't stick to your hands and it's easily moldable. So once the dough is ready, you can put it into pieces of cling film and store it in the fridge for about 2 to 3 days. I don't recommend putting it in the fridge for more than 3 days. And for the rest of the things, you'll be needing a rolling pin, pieces of parchment paper, and a tray that you can use to bake with. So now everything is ready. The cookie dough has been chilled. Let's start with the centers, the candy centers. I'm using plain Jolly Ranchers, and a lot of the recipes that I have seen, they call for using a rolling pin to break the candies. And I did that and it broke my rolling pin and it dented my countertop, so I would never recommend it. My solution to that was using a mortar and a pestle, which most of the Desi households already have. And I found it gave me really good results. I could control how much I wanted to crush it. It keeps the candy contained it was not flying everywhere. And just in case you're wondering how I was able to get same colored Jolly Ranchers, I actually got a multi-pack and I sorted the candies and then I crushed them up. So now put them aside and it's time to start rolling our dough. I'm using a silicone mat. You can use a parchment paper, but it tends to slide around a lot, so be careful with that. And you can use lightly floured counter space as well. As long as the cookie dough is not sticking and it's a flat surface, you're good to go. Here are the cookie cutters that I'll be using for these Ramadan themed cookies. You can easily find them on Amazon as well as AliExpress. And for my candy windows, I decided to use a plain round cookie cutter, but of course you can use any cookie cutter, any design you want, make them unique, make them the way you want. So now all you have to do is roll out the dough. You want it to be around a quarter of an inch thick, and if it's sticking, use a little bit of oil or flour. And then once you have all of your dough rolled out, you need to put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes at least, because if the dough is not cool enough, one, the cookies are going to melt in your hand, especially when you try to transfer them onto the baking sheet. And two, the colder the cookies, the less they spread. So it's going to give you an even sharper, crisper looking cookie. So it's almost crucial that you chill the cookie dough once you have rolled it out. It's easier to cut the cookies out as well. It almost guarantees that your cookies will turn out perfect. So now I have cut out the amount of cookies that I could from this rolled out dough, and nothing goes to a waste. Once you have one batch cut out, you can put the remaining dough together and keep cutting out cookies until all the dough is finished. And for the windows, I like to cut it out once I have put the cookies on the baking tray, so that I'm not moving the cookies in the window too much, because the heat from your hand can also disrupt the shape a little bit, and I want them to be as crisp as possible. And if it's already cold where you live, or if you're working in a cool environment, you can fill them up with candies and bake them right away. But if it's hot and humid in your surroundings, I would recommend chilling them one more time before you add the candy centers, and then bake them, just to ensure that your cookies do not spread and turn out crisp and even just the way you want them to be. So now that my cookies has firmed up nicely, you can see I can easily lift them up from the parchment paper without destroying their shape, without melting them with my hand. Now I'm adding in the crushed candies. You don't want to overfill it and you don't want to underfill it. Overfilling is going to make the candy erupt or pop out of the window, because it bubbles as it heats up. The candy is going to bubble in the oven, and if you add too much of it, it's going to come out of the window and it's going to go all over the cookie. So just enough to have the bottom and the entire bottom of the cookie covered, that's what you want. And then you're going to bake it at around 350 Fahrenheit for 8 to 12 minutes. The thinner cookies, they bake faster, especially the thin stars that I bake, so keep an eye on them. But the larger, chunkier cookies, they will take at least 10 minutes to bake. You'll see that they're going to start browning up at the edges, and your kitchen is going to fill up with beautiful aroma of cookies. So here you go, the cookies are done and ready. The bubbling that was happening in the oven, once they cool down, it settles and becomes like this crystal that you can see. And if you want to add sprinkles and other decorations, do it while they're still hot, because if the candy dries up, they won't stick to it. So that was all for today. I hope you guys liked this recipe. If you did, please do consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a big thumbs up, and share your recreations with me on my Instagram page or comment below. Until next time, the Homemaker Baker over and out.